You've probably seen this fish before. It's one of the most popular aquarium fish in the world, the betta. Its scientific name is Betta splendens, but for a lot of people, it's just seen as a simple, low-maintenance pet. But its real story? Well, it's way more complex and fascinating than you might imagine.
So let's just dive right into that name, shall we? Betta splendens. It literally translates to splendid warrior. And that isn't just some poetic fancy name. It's a direct clue to this fish's surprising and pretty aggressive past.
That is the big question, isn't it? To find the answer, we've got to take a journey back in time, back centuries to its native home, and uncover a legacy that's actually more about combat than it is about color.
Okay, so our story kicks off in the warm, shallow waters of Southeast Asia. We're talking about the rice paddies and the slow-moving streams of a place that was then known as Siam, what we call modern-day Thailand.
For generations, people harnessed their natural territorial instincts for entertainment. Seriously, a lot like cockfighting, these fish were actually pitted against each other in organized matches, and people would gamble on who would win. The name Bettas itself is even thought to come from an ancient clan of warriors.
But then, over time, human intervention started to steer the betta down a completely different path. The whole focus began to shift away from ferocity and towards, well, sheer beauty.
And that shift, it is absolutely dramatic. On one side, you've got the original, wild betta, kind of dull in color, with short, practical fins that are built for survival. But on the other side, you have the modern betta, a living jewel, completely transformed by selective breeding into this vibrant masterpiece with long, flowing fins.
This breeding has created an incredible diversity of what you could call designer fish. You've got the half moon with a tail that fans out a perfect 180 degrees. Then there's the crown tail with its really cool spiky fins. You have the Dumbo, which is named for its big pectoral fins that look like ears. And of course, the koi betta with those just mesmerizing color patterns. But, as stunning as these fish are, their most unique feature isn't their fins or their colors. It's this remarkable biological adaptation that lets them do something most other fish just can't.
It's called the labyrinth organ, and it's this specialized maze-like structure that works kind of like a lung, letting the betta absorb oxygen directly from the air. This right here is the absolute key to how they survive in the oxygen-poor waters where they come from. And the process itself is just elegantly simple. The fish swims up to the surface, it takes a little gulp of air, and then that labyrinth organ gets to work, absorbing the oxygen it needs to survive. It's really an evolutionary masterstroke.
Now, this incredible survival skill has unfortunately led to one of the biggest and most harmful myths in the whole aquarium hobby, the idea that bettas can live happily in those tiny little bowls.
And here's the crucial thing to get. Just because a betta can survive in a tiny, unfiltered container, that absolutely does not mean it is thriving. That ability to breathe air is a survival mechanism for tough conditions, not a preference for living in a closet.
So what do they need to actually thrive? The recommended minimum tank size for a single betta fish is 5 gallons. That gives them enough space to swim, to explore, and to live a healthy, active life.
Let's break that down a bit. A proper aquarium for a betta gives them not just space, but also a heater to keep the water at a stable tropical temperature, we're talking between 24 and 29 degrees Celsius, and a gentle filter to keep the water clean. It's a whole world away from a cold, stagnant bowl.
And you know what's cool? When you give them the right environment, their personalities really start to shine. These are intelligent fish. They can actually learn to recognize their owners. And they'll show you these fascinating natural behaviors, like the male's instinct to build an intricate bubble nest at the water's surface to care for his eggs. So this brings us to our final point. While they're incredibly popular in our homes, the story of the betta out in the wild is becoming, well, a little precarious. In their natural ecosystem, these small predators have a huge impact. They're basically a natural form of pest control, feeding on the larvae of mosquitoes and other insects and helping to keep a really delicate balance.
But sadly, wild betta splendens are now classified as a vulnerable species. Their homes are shrinking because of urbanization and farming, their water is getting polluted by chemical runoff, and on top of all that, escaped farm-bred fish are interbreeding with the wild populations, watering down their unique genetic makeup.
And so that leaves us with this question. The Betta's story is one of survival, a warrior that adapted to fierce competition and incredibly harsh environments. The next chapter of its story, well, that really depends on us. It depends on responsible owners who choose to understand its history and provide the care this splendid warrior truly deserves.